Well, 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 well. Well, I'm going to say, well, all is well. Christmas time is near, holiday season, and I know the FIFA Cup is going on, and I know I'm actually bothering all of you. Some of you watching the FIFA, some of you watching True House Stories, blah, 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 back and forth. But let's talk about something really important. The first show I started, August of 2020, was with Marshall Jefferson, the godfather of house music, right? August 2020. We're now 99th show in, right? Okay. With a great guest who's waiting to come up. And I got him last minute to go rush to get me photos. He went crazy looking for photos from me. I got him to get him. I said, dude, we know what you look like now, but we want to know what you look like in the 90s. You know, what I remember when I first met you when you were a kid. He's like, oh, I found it. He's going to old laptops. He's famous. We all love him. He's a great guy. But before I even get into that, I have to do a shameless plug before I bring him up because I want to make sure everybody knows. I was waiting for a while to announce this, but we are going to have one of the greatest of our time come for the 100th birthday show, Kathy Sledge. Kathy Sledge will be on the 100th show. The legendary lead vocalist of Sister Sledge. You know her, the songs, We're Family. You know all her records, Thinking of You, all those big hits. She's coming on right here on December 28th at 2 p.m., right between Christmas and New Year's. So I'm going to catch you all at home having eggnog and all that wonderful stuff. So stay tuned because we're going to make sure to remind you over and over. We're going to become annoying. Anyway, here we go. Welcome to True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana coming out of New York City with a jingle jingle in my step and a deck the halls to all of you around the world because Merry Christmas. We're not going to do a Christmas show, but we're around that time. We're here in December, and I'm so proud to tell you the guest I have today. Number one Swiss DJ. Number one. Okay. Has a show on Sirius XM, worked for one of the biggest EDM labels in the game, spinning records, spinning deep with his records. He's toured the world endlessly around the globe. Goes by 3 big letters, but his real name is Maurizio Colella. He's Italiano Swiss. For those in Italiano know what I'm talking about. He knows good food. He knows how to do it right. But the 3 letters he goes by is EDX. And those that know, there is no excuse to get him here. We saw each other in Holland after the war ended. We hugged. Lenny, how are you? EDX. Oh, but I know Maurizio, come stai? Va bene, tutto a posto. You know, everybody's loving each other. We're all happy. And we said, you must come on True House Stories. To the point, because he's European, he forgot the FIFA Cup is going on. So he's upset that he's like, I got to do this show, but I know I have to do this show. But damn it, we should have planned it at a different time. Unfortunately, this show is important and his story is important. So without further ado, Mannaggia morta, I bring to you Maurizio Colella, known as EDX.
Lenny, that was a great introduction. And I want to be sincere. It was not like that I have to do the show. I actually wanted to do the show because I remember back in the days when Skype was brand new, we ended up speaking sometimes quite a lot on Skype. And that's almost, I think, 20 years back. And now there's all these technologies, like you have FaceTime, you have WhatsApp, you have like Zoom and all that stuff, and we just don't end up catching up anymore because we're just busy. Time has changed, and there is like this 24/7 like
Lifestyle.
influence
I know.
of data, lifestyle, and the internet. And Italy is not playing anymore.
No.
The World Cups at the moment. Switzerland has been kicked off, and
I know. The left hand, the other one too. Oh.
I'm not such a big fan.
In America,
I'm not such a big fan of Les Bleus, but I felt like it's a very special game today. Like Morocco is playing France, and it's like kind of a derby. It's like Inter playing Milan. It's like a derby for me, and it's quite interesting to see how this match is going to end up. But well, France already scored the first goal right after the start. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Thank you again. He's a record label owner, and he understands the game, and artist and producer, writer, and even Grammy. I mean, I could have went on and on with the monologue, with the Grammy nominated, the whole thing, but we're going to get into that story. I like to welcome you all to, EDX's home. He's a sweetheart of a guy. The wonderful thing about my job is I've been blessed to know such wonderful people in our business, and he's one of these people, humble and just understands the work ethic. He doesn't stop. You know what I'm saying? EDX is just that kind of guy that just stop is basta is not his word. Pasta may be in his word, but basta is, which means stop. Anyway, EDX, thanks again, brother. Bon Natale, of course. I ask everyone the same question. You're going to get the same hard question, and only you can paint this picture. No one can do it better than you. How does music find you as a young, Maurizio, the young kid? Where does it begin for you? Take us on that journey.
That's an interesting question. Music in general, like I've been growing up like as an Italian, like Italian family with a lot of friends always coming over, and music was like all over the place actually. And luckily enough, when I was still a kid at school, there was like still like a lot of support for like music stuff. Like there was like music classes. There was like you had the chance to take like violin classes, piano classes, and they were like supporting music like really a lot. They're not doing this anymore. Like all these budgets get cut, which I think is a big mistake. And there should be like people like kind of pushing into that sector a little bit, which I'm trying to do here in Switzerland. And so like music was all over the place, like family wise, we had like music always at school. Like my teacher made us like sing every day, like 30 minutes, like 15 minutes in the morning after the big break and 15 minutes after the lunch break again. So we had a piano, and that was actually where I kind of met music the first time, like on a like ongoing, consistent way. While back in the days, I was able to sing every single Beatles song. I'm not sure if I can still today, but back in the days, I was able to. Anyways, like later on, I actually grew up. I'm Italian, born and raised in Switzerland, from Italian parents, and I have two older brothers, and one of them, he was like always like very into music. We in Italy we have a very unique Italian like kind of folk music, which with a lot of stars like Eros Ramazzotti and all these talents that are also known in the Latin world, and I think also in the US. So music has been always a part, but like when I think electronic music, or let's say like music that happens in clubs, hit me first was when like one of my brothers kind of started to be like trying to be a break dancer. I'm not sure he was like really good, but he won a contest. It was second. Didn't won it, but he became second. So there I kind of got a little bit into that. It was hip hop music back then, indeed. So there was all that like spin in from the US. Like I think the first like movie that like really influenced me with that hip hop was like Wild Style back in the days, Rockin', and then like a little bit more the commercial ones like Colors. And that culture just came over like in storm, like in the late 80s. I was still like a very young kid, so I wasn't like really able to go out, but I started already like to kind of work on like DJing, trying to scratch and do that stuff that comes from that culture. So I started to kind of get interest into like urban hip hop music, like more or rap. Let's call it rap back in the days, like with Grandmaster Flash and Eric B and Rakim and all like the NWA and all the classics, Public Enemy. So I used to go always once a year with the family to Italy. And Italy in the late 80s, early 90s had like a huge like Italo disco movement that was kind of blending in with hip hop music. And there was like one kid, he was like trying to do like the hip hop music from the US, like in a Italian way. It was actually it's awful if you listen to it now, but it was revolutionary back in the days for Italy. His name was Giovanotti, and he released the album. It was called For President. So it's still happening today. Like on the beach in Italy, you have always these black market people like trying to sell you tapes, CDs, piracy, fake champion T-shirts, fake shoes, stuff like this. So I remember buying the tape and then one summer listening the whole album over and over. I knew every song. I knew everything about this guy. He was like wearing really weird fashion. He was just trying to be an American boy in Italy, and he actually really did it the right way, because he also invited like Africa Bambata, and he was having like he was meeting the hip hop people that were there at that time. And this was like when I kind of had like this kind of blend, because he was a little bit in between hip hop and started already to go into kind of more dance appealed sound. And the first moment I really felt that there was like a fashion, a movement, a culture happening was when acid house was all of a sudden all over the place. Everyone was walking around with like this smiley jackets, headbands. Like this was the time of Karate Kid and that generation, And
that's what I was trying to figure out what year. I'm glad you said the Karate Kid. So it's mid 80s. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's like towards the late 80s. Yeah. So there was like a lot of tracks that like I was like, wow, that's so cool. And I was like DJing a little bit hip hop, like at these school events. I was DJing a little bit outside school. I did like quite a few shows with hip hops, always with my slow part. My slow part record was always LL Cool J, I Need Love. It always worked well. And later on, all of a sudden, as I said, when I met like Giovanotti, I started to see, okay, there's like other sound also happening. And I was already on an age where my brothers, during the summer holidays in Italy, had the chance to have to take me with them to go out. So I was going to these nightclubs for 18 years up, but I was 14, but I was with my brothers. So I was always like just hanging in a corner, and I was watching the DJs. This was a time when like records like Losing My Religion from REM were like super popular, like this kind of sound. But there was also like this new vibe that came after the acid house vibe that was like this kind of, back then it was just called techno, it was just a techno movement. And there was one particular record that was just like the tune of the year. It was called We Need Love, and we need freedom. We need freedom from, I don't remember the band, which is We Need Freedom. It was like a huge record, and this was just like revolutionary. When the track came on, I was like, okay, there is something else also going on than just hip hop music from the US. that's like something very special, you know. And Italy was very forward back then, because they had already like the Italo dance movement a couple of years before, with like Tony Carrasco and Marco Bongaldi with MBO and Klein, Dirty Talk. So there was like already things happening. They were like because I think it was one of the first nations in the world. It was like in the Adria, that's like a part of the coast of Italy, Rimini, Riccione. I'm sure that back in the 90s, you also ended up playing shows in that region. Pretty sure.
Oh my God, yes.
Rimini, Riccione.
The Prince.
Prince, yes, Prince. Baia Imperiale and
Baia Imperiale.
Cocorico, Pasha.
Played all those clubs in the 90s, yes.
So, and I was a kid and I was going to these things with my friends, and I started to go to Italy when I was 16 myself, with my friends. There's like 2 weeks with my friends' parents, 2 weeks with my parents, other friends. So we were like able to like explore, you know, no one was scared that they're going to kidnap you. No one was scared that something's going to happen to you. We've done these crazy things. And I've been always like going back home, like at 6, 7 a.m. when I was 16, when my mom already started to wake up and go to have breakfast, you know, or like went to make sure she gets her bed at the beach. So this was like a very like important part of electronic music and me, because I started to see the nightlife, that clubbing that was very connected to which is very connected to dance, to electronic music, and it started to like develop like interest, you know, like more and more and more and more. So all of a sudden, like in the early 90s, this was like, I would say, I was still like DJing, but I was still kind of trying to figure out how does this really work, the BPM match, you know. It was, the technology was back in the days different than today. Today you just put in a CD, there is already like informations on the data, and someone just needs to play start and everything is synced, you know. So I was like 24/7 in my room, in my house. I had like a small room where I had like a Casio keyboard. I switched my Bontempi, which was like just a piano, to learn play piano a little bit, to a Casio keyboard that had MIDI access, and I connected it to, back then I think it was an Amiga 500, or that an app called Sequencer. So I was trying to do music, but I still wanted like also to understand how does this DJ thing work, you know. So I remember like one track, which was Stonebridge's remix of Show Me Love, was one of the tracks that I at least beat matched 200-300 times in my life within just a few days, you know, because I used that track with another record. This was Lonnie Gordon, Gonna Give You, Gonna Catch You, which was a big record that summer too. With then there was also the other record, the Gypsy Crystal Clear record. There was also super huge. So I was trying to mix all these 3 records together. You know, this was like my target. First, learn to mix these 2 records together, and then go and try to mix the next record. But, you know, hip hop was more easy. It was just check, scratch, right, left, in, period, you know?
Right. So, this is where you had a beat match and get things to lock up.
Yeah, so it was a little bit more complicated. So I was kind of working on that. This was like around 91, 92.
Let's take a look at him. Look at how he looked around those days.
It's 93, yeah?
Yeah.
I was just going to speak about that. So I started to work during the free days. I started to work in a record store. It was called DJ Beat, like in 92. And there was like a complete revolution happening in Europe with these warehouse events, where like you had all these DJs from outside, like from all the countries, from the UK, from the US, you know. All of a sudden there was like arena events with this music, you know, happening. And in Germany, Berlin, there was this Love Parade already going on in the late 80s, like after the wall came down. They started this peace, love, and love, peace, and whatever parade. And I always saw this in the TV, and like media started to speak about like techno music more and more. And at one point, the parade came to Switzerland, so they launched the street parade in 1992. And my great friend back then was Louis, and he was one day, hey, let's go, the parade is today. It was a rainy day, actually, before the parade. So I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. Look, it's raining. I'm going home. No, let's go. You have to go. He was like 2 years older than me. So he already used to go more clubbing in Italy than I used to go. So he was more into that. So I went to that parade in 92. I had an event myself the same night in like a youth house, just for kids stuff thing, where like, I think in 92, this was the year of Pullover from Speedy J, remember the Speedy J Pullover
Yes.
records took over all of a sudden. So this was in 92. And then they had this parade in the day. So I went to the parade and I saw like a couple of hundred people, like crazy people, like for me crazy, because I was always there for music, I was not there for like dancing, because if I was a great dancer, I was not a DJ, then I would have been on the other side. I would be on the dance floor dancing, So I was always kind of more a shy guy from the early days, and this keeps going on today. So I went to this parade and I was like, what the hell is going on, And the guy that had like the first record stores here for like dance music, that made it like kind of more the bigger stores that I was working on the free day, had his own like love mobile. They called them love mobile, these kind of cars or like caravans with like these floats going on the streets with music and speakers. So I was on that on his float, and I was like, wow, that's so cool, okay. I had my event at the night, and then after the event, of course, the Youth House closes already at midnight. There was this like festival. It was called Energy Rave, and it was in an old factory building, just like a few blocks from where I grew up or where I was living. In the 90s, when like the whole like the big factories started to close down, they started to use all these buildings to do like raves. And all of a sudden you started to meet people like at these raves. There was like DJs from all over the world. There was like, I remember in 92 already, like Carl Cox, Robert Hood, Derek May, like all these artists. Like when, I'm talking more about the techno side, not the housey side. So there was all these artists, and they were so big, and everyone was like, even they didn't know their music because they were from a different country and they were so big. They were like, what the hell is going on? And these were all flute. There was so many people going to these raves. And it became something really interesting, because there was every weekend 1-2 of these raves going on all over Switzerland, from the French part, the Italian part, the German part. There was like each city, like big city had like kind of a rave where people were meeting. So I ended up meeting people from all over Switzerland every weekend at a different rave. And there was like this community thing, you kept meeting people you didn't know, but one guy from city, like let's say if you're from New York, so all of a sudden you started to meet people from Boston, people from Atlanta, from Philadelphia, people from Jersey, from Brooklyn, and they were all going to this rave, and they were all like into this, like, who the hell is Sven Väth? Who is this guy? Who is DJ Hype? Who are all these people? Why is this so crazy? It was just a crazy.
Well, also because it was a brand new time. This was all new. All of it's new.
Yes.
Don't forget, he's actually, remember he said he's pushing and working his craft, playing vinyl, not playing. There was no pioneer generation yet. It was a techniques generation, everybody.
It was so different. I was just thinking,
different night and day from what it is now.
No, but you need just to think about it, how unfair it was back in the days on the DJ side and also on the producer side. If you really think about the transition between the analog world and the digital world, it's crazy. I remember I was only able to buy 2-3 records every week, because a record was $15. 15, so $45, and you still needed to learn, to practice. You needed to have like a turntable, a Technics turntable.
That's another thing. You need to have good
I remember my father, when I told my father I need this turntable, he went there, and before he went into the house of this person that was selling them to me, he was, "Do you really need this?" Because hey, this was like $2,000 in the 90s.
Wait, why do you need two of them?
Yeah, why do you need? Do you really need this? And I managed to get them. But this was so much money for my parents that already then each had 2-3 jobs every day to make us to give us a better life. You were three boys, huh? So they had 3 jobs. Do you really need this? Yeah, please. So I started with the cheaper ones, then the better mixer, then the Technics. So slowly everything happened. Like, do you really need it? So it was really hard. Not everyone could be a DJ or like follow this kind of passion for music. And I think the real passion for music started when these warehouse events started, because that street parade, that love, peace, and happiness.
Was that you in the street? This is the street parade or no?
One with the violet, like the purple jeans. That's me.
I know it's you. No, I'm saying, is this on the street parade? This picture?
That's a street parade in '93. Me with what is this? Like a Nervous t-shirt?
Yeah, that's a rec shirt. I recognize as Nervous, the hip hop label.
It's a Nervous. Yeah.
So
cool.
Amazing. Think about that, people. How he.
It's 20 years ago.
Struggled to get those turntables. Begged them, Padrino, please, please, I want it. And they were telling him, "No, are you out of your mind? 2,000 euros for that?"
No, now it's more. Back then it was like 2,000.
A lot of money back then. That's a lot of money.
20 years ago was a lot of money, and we are talking here about like the late 80s, like early 90 in the 1990s, something like 23 years ago. And but I think like the parade, the warehouse, that love, peace, and happiness movement was the thing when I felt kind of that genre, like club music, took my heart in storm. Like tack, it happened. And and since then I've been always true to it. I always try to just follow the path, and it didn't just take my heart in storm. It also just became part of me, part of my journey, part of my history. And I'm still really happy that I had this encounter this in this way, like as a kid in Italy, nightclubs with friends. It's completely a different way that in 2020.
Yeah, we know that even in the 90s it was different back from the 80s, because it was actually a scene. Electronic dance music scene was really happening, but nobody dreamed it would become where it went to and where you experience it later. So in the beginning, when you started to go out to the Love Parade and the whole sorry, not Love Parade, Street Parade. Love Parade was in Germany. Yeah. Street Parade. Was it that moment you said, "This is what I want to do. I want to be a producer." Not a producer. I want to be a DJ. Is that really a defining factor?
It's very interesting, because I had like both sides. Like I already had like my production setup, but I really like to be in nightclubs, because I was young. I wanted to explore what's going on, in nightclubs. It's who are all these people, but I feel I always followed the music, like as the main thing was always, hey, I'm following the music. I'm going to the club because I really love the music. I'm very fascinated. I remember going to events and seeing certain DJs for the first time. And especially then when later on, I started to really work in studios with friends on music, and started to just be able also to invest in studio gears, which you definitely needed to spend, I think, at least good sampler, computer, keyboard, speaker, mixer, at least 20,000 back in the days just to start, and you still had like as you still had like a studio that had like always this horrible ground noise that you couldn't get rid of, which now in the digital generation since 10, like if you go 10 years back now, which I'm okay with it, which I really like someone in Russia can just like produce music on a like old PC with a software that it just downloads illegal, and the sample pack that it downloads illegal, but they have a great like musical education in Russia from scratch, from the schooling, that they can make great music. And that what happened like I think 15 years back. If you turn the time 15 years back, like all these new talents coming from all these countries where never before techno music was released from, this was thanks to the digital revolution, never possible in the 90s by yourself. To produce music by yourself, by being like 16, 17, 18 years old. This was no chance. Like there was no chance, except you had like a lot of money, or like I don't know, like you were in a gang and you had like hood money, and or you just like went around the streets to just rack people and get the studio together,
But see, everybody thinks from the outside that everyone in Switzerland is very rich, very wealthy. Like. The water's blue, the air is clean, the mountains, and everybody's rich.
My wife, she always makes fun of it, and I keep telling her that I grew up actually in the ghetto of Zurich, my hometown, in a small quarter. They have developed after the Second World War for like minorities. Like with like cheap housing, with like even like like the sector 7, or like how is it called in New York, sector 7, or projects, like this housing for people that cannot.
For those in England, it's the council housing. For those in America, the projects. And then for the European, it's the sector area, right? The sector. Yeah, so the sector area looked beautiful. I saw the sector area in Switzerland. It ain't like
I completely agree with you. So my wife, she's always laughing at me because she grew up in Miami, not in the best neighborhood. So she's always making fun of me when I say I really grew up in the ghetto, which I did, but it was never so hard. But it was, from the cultural point of view, it was really great because I grew up with great people, like with fun people, fun families, fun culture. It was like I would never be here if I grew up like in a nice blue sky Swiss region, which I wouldn't mind actually too. But I'm really happy that
It's funny you say that, because every time I go to Switzerland and I see the Matterhorn or something, the big mountain, I always scream this out to everybody, and everybody cracks up laughing. I go, Ricola!
Ricola.
I know, but I always do that because, Switzerland's beautiful. But wait.
No, I'm fortunate. I'm lucky.
It's also very boring, because I used to ask this question when the club night was over. What do people do? And everybody would always say to me, there's a reason why Switzerland's the way Switzerland is. And they would say to me, we have the highest depression and the highest suicide rate because it's too beautiful and nothing to do.
I think the suicide rate is just in November, just in the month of November, and I think it's just because right now it's a very depressing time. It's like no sun. It was snowing all week. It's already like I went to the office very quickly, like after lunch, and I saw like already outside it was getting dark. Like at 3:30, I was like, "Hey, I need to go home." It's just like that transition time from like summer, fall into the winter is, if you're not from here, or you're not kind of just, hey, it is what it is, I'm used to it. I went through it already at least 40 times in my life. So. Well, it was less because I used to travel a lot, during that time, especially for that reason, when I got a little bit more able to travel. Anyways, no, I think it's a great place to be. It's I think we had like a very very strong after hour culture too, from the early 90s, because it was more regulated, the whole nightlife thing and clubbing and like the liquor license stuff, So we had a strong after hour moment in the 90s. This was at the rave or somewhere in 94. Look. You know where this was? I can tell you exactly where this was. This was at Carl Cox.
See?
This was at Carl Cox.
But you were making your way around now. The 90s are here and you're making your way, you're finding your way through.
This was at Carl Cox. I remember the date. A friend of mine did that event at Carl Cox at Alte Kaserne. Yeah.
See?
Yeah, cool.
Very cool.
So anyways, and so all of a sudden, like, this stuff just got me. I went through, the music got me in storm. Like, I was like, fuck, that's what I want to do. And then I just started to explore every different angle. I was like, okay, let's just throw raves. Or like, I started with a after tea event. Not a rave. You know what the after tea event is? Like the ones that start at 1 p.m. They go after the after hour.
Yeah, the tea dance. It's actually a tea dance in the afternoon.
Tea dance. So I started to do a tea dance in 94. For a couple of months, I had like great talents coming by and play there just for fun, for like, because it was just a new thing that everyone just like was like, so cool. Who is this? Like, I had like many DJs that like were legends back then that they didn't know where to go after the after hours. So they were okay, I play. I come at your place. I play. No worry. Give me a couple of hundred. It's fine. And so I did like after hours. Then later on, I did raves, and it was just, it was like I would say, like, when you go, like, if you compare it to the US, let's use now the three nice letters EDM moment in the US, like I would say in 2008, past 2008, it was just new. It was fresh. It was like, it didn't matter who the DJ was. No one cared about the DJ. Everyone cared about the music, about getting together, about having a great time. And I really like this like revolution in the US, like now almost 15 years back, when it became just a bigger thing, in the US too. You have Ultra, you have a lot of events, you have like Detroit culture, you have the New York culture, you have the Chicago culture, you have the San Francisco culture in the US, like a lot of cultures that were always like very electronic music, disco driven. You have also a big DJ culture already from back in the days, but until it really hit every single radio station with like a Calvin Harris track, or who else it was back in the days in the US, it took like a lot of time. I would say 20 years, almost more than 20 years from when it happened in Europe, So when this happened in the US, it was a similar thing like it was in 94, 92 in Europe. Like, no one really cared about the name. There was all these names coming. There was like from Aphex Twin back in the days, or like there was like Kraftwerk. They were already doing like sold out concerts. It was actually one of my first concerts I ever went in my life was Kraftwerk when they came to Zurich, like in early 90s. But all these raves that started at these after hours, they were not driven by names. Like, in fact, you could just put on that flyer a name like Maurizio Fontana from London. And just because you and me together were from London, people would come out because they would say, that's a DJ from London, we need to go. There was like so many different factors. It was no generation social media, no generation.
All right, none of that started yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Like, and that a good example for that was like many years later. Like, after I was a promoter, after I was also doing like design, because I was close to nightlife. So I was like very good with computers. So I ended up like being like the flyer designer of most of the big events over here for like almost a decade. just like to have a step into the music and still have a normal job, because this was very important to my parents, After I got almost kicked out from my bank job, I was like bank education. I had just to do something, and this was like I had to do like something serious. So I was okay. I'm going to become a designer.
Wait a minute. Bank job is serious.
But this was just like a couple of months. But I got almost kicked out. I was like,
he said he's got to go do something serious. And what's the serious job you're going to go do?
I was doing the bank, and then I ended up the bank, and I had to do something serious. So I was a designer. I was doing flyers, stuff like this. I had an office. I was like 18 years old, my own office. I had clients coming over. I was doing a lot of artwork, graphic stuff, and I ended up doing more and more for the music industry because that what my passion was, and that like opened up a lot of doors for me because all of a sudden I was making all the POS artwork for Eric Clapton, Madonna, every artist. I was working for Warner Music. I was working for EMF Virgin. I was working for Universal. So I had in every single record company in Switzerland, I had a foot into the door. For my
drink of water for a second. I want to advertise one more time. Come on.
The serious job?
Yeah, we're gonna. Don't forget, everybody. Next the 20th December, Kathy Sledge for the 100th birthday show. EDX is the 99th. These are two special shows. Today's show and the 100 with Kathy Sledge. Don't miss out on that. Make sure you tune in. Okay, EDX. Sorry, brother. I hate to do a shameless look, but that's okay. It's a 100 celebration. I kept you for 99. It was important. The changeover. I wanted to bring someone like yourself from the world of house and EDM into this because I've never really had a chance to speak to the EDM guys who come from the house scene, and I'm glad you agreed. So you were doing all the artwork, and in those days, the graphic design, were you actually working on a computer or were you doing it by hand on the graphic design work?
It was a blend off, but it was already like that moment when...
different now too. Even doing that now is so different than the way it used to be done back in the day.
Yeah, but I ended up like doing a lot of computer stuff. I was really good on like three-dimensional artwork. That was like super new in the 90s. Each time I render a picture, it took me like at least a day. So I click enter, render, and my day was off. I was okay. I see you tomorrow morning, office. So it was a cool, like it was really it was a good time. Anyway, so I had to step into everyone's door at the music labels. So while I switched completely to house music around 2000 and like 1994 as a DJ, like it was more like the UK garage. Of course, also like back then I was a big fan of like Strictly Rhythm, Nervous Records, High Bias out of Canada. There was all these labels like or like also like the Sound of Underground from Sound of Chicago. All that house labels, they were like really strong, and I was like, let me focus more like on this 120 to 124 BPM, more like groovy sound with more like swing, like not too banging, not too noisy. It was great to go to these like events with 10, 15, 20,000 people, all with their big eyes, walking through that warehouses and exploring the world, but I felt like, going back in history, like, and speaking about like hip hop music, Italo disco, I just like more the funky sound, and the US was like really killing it.
Yes, it's true. It was, we were all coming out with these records nonstop.
It was just killing it. And I really liked that time, So after exploring being a promoter, while I was DJing a lot all over, already started to DJ like Europe and the world, like in in 98, I would say, I started to travel and DJ more international, like 97. My international traveling journey started like, okay, I go to Germany, I go to Austria, I go to France, I go to Italy. Then, okay, to London, I go there, I go here. Then, okay, I go to...
hanging out with guys like Timo Maas. Look, already.
Timo is legendary, yeah?
Timo Maas. Look how young he was there, too. God.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think this picture is from like...
Yeah, it's old.
99 or like...
So around 98, yeah, it looks like around that time. I remember him when he looked like that.
Like, this was the time he was like in this band, Orinoco, or like with his studio mate, Andy and Martin Buttrich. They had this other project, Sounds of Life, which they were doing dubby house, remember?
Yes, I do.
Sounds of Life sound, yeah. This was like, so I remember like playing back to back with Timo, like in the 1999. And that's where like our friendship started, But he really switched really quick to like, let's call it more proper music.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, like he got like a manager. He ended up like having like these 2-3 really big club records, Schieber 1, Schieber 2, and then he got signed to Alexander in the UK, to a big agency. All of a sudden, he remixed Madonna, he remixed that, and all of a sudden he went the right path with the music. He understood it right away. You need to work on
the business right. He had all the right people around him to make the business.
Yeah, this was very interesting. I really impressed, and he's still around. And I see him now.
Oh, yeah,
you see him like now after a small kind of slowdown. I think it's always like a lot of life circumstances. He's like touring a lot. I'm like, fuck, I could not do this. Like he's doing it right now with the family. My kids are young. His kids are like, I think they're already older. So he's now back like on like let's get it flight status. I want to become the biggest tier at American Airlines. I want to become the biggest tier at Lufthansa. Let's go. It's that well. So anyway, so I was always housey. So I tried to work more on the housey side, always with a little bit more like an Italian touch to it, like still like that kind of disco kind of sound.
Yeah.
And I ended up working with my DJ partner back then, like it's like 98, 99, 2000, 2002. We DJed together like for like 2-3 years, 5 years almost, back to back. We ended up like having our own studio.
Is this him?
Yeah, that's Leon Klein.
There you go. We got the picture. Leo Klein. Yes.
So we had a great like friendship, we were like DJing.
Look
like,
how young everybody was, people. Take a good look at the picture. These are bambinos.
Yeah, that's true. We were having all these first experiences together, like traveling to Lausanne, to Mad Lausanne, traveling to Metropolis, traveling to Guayas, traveling to all these events and clubs all over Switzerland, always together. That's such a great thing if you can make it with not just by yourself, you can do it with someone together. So we started to make music with by ourselves and also with like studio teams that were like really focusing, because back then, there was like this Yamaha O2R mixer. This was the first digital mixer and no one had this. So we had like our friend Giuseppe, he was already a little bit older. He was like, I'm going to put everything into being a music producer now. So he set up his studio and we were just hanging out with him, like working on music, like 1-2 records every week. This was like in 97, 98. And that's where I started just to release music. And it was like it was always house music, but it was not easy, being like an Italian immigrant family son, growing up in Switzerland with like Swiss German and German, not really speaking English from second grade. We like 12th grade is when we start to speak the first time English classes in Switzerland.
Wow.
Now they start at 5th grade, but we started at 12th grade. So I had 1 year of English education back when I was a kid. So listening to a song in the radio was completely different to how you listen to a song in the radio. And it took me almost 10 years to understand this. So we were like recording music like with Swiss singers, really nice songs. The English was perfect in my point of view. Everything was perfect. And we started to send CDs out to all these labels. to the Ministry of Sound. Back then, the fact that it was already there, like to Strictly Rhythm, and all that stuff kept coming back. They send you the CD back. Thank you for submitting. It's nothing for us. Keep sending. So back in the days, they kept sending you the CD back, or the tape back. And I didn't understand what the fuck is going on. Why no one wants to play music? It's so great, It's really great music, and I just didn't get it. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's do our own label, so we can release whatever we want, whenever we want, and no one is bothering us. So I teamed up back then with a label group, was Undercover Music Group in Germany, which was part of Intergroove. They were kind of co-owned each other's, so they were like exploring the world. They had like Intergroove in the UK, that Intergroove in the US, in New York, Germany, Italy. So they kind of became like this cool independent distributor that was distributing a lot of music all over the world. So we started to do a joint venture with them, and I started my first label like around 1998 together with my DJ mate Leon in 98, which was called Club Control. We ended up releasing like 20 records, but it was a very good schooling for me to understand the music industry a little bit better as like a younger guy. I was in 98, I was like almost 20. I was 20 and I was older than 20. I was like a little bit older than 20 in 98. So we launched our first label, and we were like really doing good collaborations. I started to license music back and forth to some Italian labels, a little bit to Germany, a little bit here. But the records, they didn't really perform well in the markets I wanted, the moment when like Tony Humphries.
What market were you trying to target? Because you mentioned Strictly, Nervous.
We were targeting the US and the UK, of course.
Okay, so you the house, what we call the garage, American house garage movement sound. Okay,
yeah, that was the sound with a little bit more disco twist, and I was trying to figure out what are we doing, here. So it's again like a situation between the analog world and now the digital world. Back then, the only chance, except you spend a lot of money to have each country promote your record to radio or to club, the only chance to get heard was to send as much records out to record stores all over the world. And back in the days, to release one record was spending at least $4,000, because you had to do the master, then you had to make the top plates, then you had to produce the record, you had to print the covers, and then you have maybe 1,000 records, and you spend $3,000-4,000. And now you need to send these records out to the world. So you're limited to 1,000 final customers. So you were sending probably 200 to the UK, 50 to Japan, 40 to Australia, 100 to the US, some to Germany, Italy, all the European markets. Mm-hmm. And the only chance for people to hear this music was to go to the record store, spend the whole afternoon, and find out which is the next big record. Most of the times the next big record was only accessible to normal DJ like months later, because all these big future records were given first to like the bigger DJs. There was just like more under the table business. Okay, this is a new promo. Hey, you have the new Strictly, and this is coming in 2 months. We were sending out promos, white labels, just like with a sticker, not the official release, to tease a little bit the market, and also to feed the store guy that needs to order the records at the end when they are ready to go. So we were anticipating always like that white labels. And the problem was like you seriously just were able to hit the amount of people that bought the record. that played that record in the club in the night, and then someone could go there and say, "Hey, what record are you playing?" And you can say, "I play this record," but still doesn't matter that you have someone that now has the same record. So the DJ thing was more fun because everyone was super individual. No one played the same set. No one played the same hits. Every DJ had was only able to play the records that you got. But from the business side of you spent $4,000, and probably if the records are not sold in the store after 6 months, the store was sending back the allowance they were allowed to send back. So usually the allowance was 20% return rights, 30. Of course, if someone bought 100 records and he didn't sell even one, you took 100 back because you wanted him to buy the next record too. You didn't want him to be not supporting your releases. So, and at that stage, I finally kind of understood what the problem was, because the fourth release on the label was changed by Michael Proctor. So we ended up signing Change by Michael Proctor. Back then he was in Vegas. He's originally from Chicago. And he had I think a daughter here in Switzerland. And he had a girlfriend here in Switzerland, or wife, that I was friend with. And so she helped me through my studio mate, get in touch to him. And he had this record laying around, So I was okay. It was super expensive for me because back then the Swiss francs to the dollar was 1.8, double as much as it was today. So I was okay, let's sign this record, make an agreement with an American guy. It's always like complete different than making an agreement with a German, with a Swiss guy, with Italian. It's more easy. With an American, it's always complicated agreements just for a record, So we made the record, we sent the money over, I made an EDX remix back in the days of this record. And that record was licensed all over Europe to all the labels. And I was like, why this record is licensed all over Europe? I think he had one big record before. I think it was Deliver Me, or I don't remember the title.
Sulfuric with Jazz and Groove.
Yeah, that was like a big record he did. And of course, I was expecting, okay, it's Michael Proctor. I was looking up to him. I was a fan, And that record went well, got licensed to Italy, got licensed to this label in Germany, got licensed to this. So I was like, at the end coming up, why are our records that we release in between not doing as good, not nearly as good? So I just figured out it's the English, it's the songwriting. We didn't have any culture of understanding because, even today, I'm not listening to a song lyric if I don't really pay attention, It was more about listening to a record in the radio and a nice sounding voice, colorful voice with a nice melody. So it was never about, so I started to compare that stuff, and then it took me almost 10 years, because now we are in 98, and I figured that out in 2008, 2009, when EDM became big in the US, and I was playing Vegas, all the cities in the US, and there was all these songs with all these cheesy, One Republic, catchy vocals, and my English became much better, and I started to understand. People want to sing along, so they are listening completely different to a song, and it took me really 10 years to understand this, why our records were not doing good, or why the labels didn't want to pick up our records, So in 2008, I already jumped 10 years of my life. In 2008, in between that time, I've been also a music manager of DJ Mag Top 100 artists and multiple platinum selling and gold record selling artists. Which I'm still doing today, kind of management and mentoring to new talents, because I was able to build up the connection to everyone. So I kept doing it, and I felt like I always had a really good vibe in being also kind of a little bit more on the business side. So then I came back with my sound after like I literally had a kind of a hiatus on my own music because I was like, what the fuck is going on? You know, I've been doing records. In 98, because I worked with Intergroove, I remixed like big records. Back in the days, Too Funk, I remixed Kool The Gang, I remixed Lauryn Hill, even Armand Van Helden. You know, that I even remember these magic moments. Armand Van Helden was DJing at how is it called? At Cameo in Miami. This was like, I would say 99, 98 still. At like the Eric's Subliminal Sessions. And I remember like he's still like Armin Van Helden playing at the Subliminal Sessions. And I went there and gave him the record. Hey, look, I remixed your record. Here's and he was, okay, cool, bro. Actually, just recently saw him on the flight from Miami conference to Zurich. He was coming over for Europe, for Ibiza. It was so funny after 25 years almost. Anyways, so these records all did good because the music was good. Just the lyrics were not like on point. So I took like kind of a hiatus while I was still working, like focusing a little bit on the label side, also for other talents and artwork side. But when the digital revolution arrived, I was really quick. I was like, hey, we need to get our music to iTunes back then. Like, let's be quick, you know, while the big companies like are still fighting over, we just bought this catalog, we bought Strictly Rhythm, we bought this. And then all of a sudden, the Warner Music was bought by an investment company. Then Time Warner came in, you know, then CNN came in. Look, it was a huge chaos happening. So the big labels were really slow on the digital revolution, like the majors. So I was like sneaking into that hole, and I was like doing everything digital very early from 2002 already. And I was very focusing. I was like trying to get all the labels that didn't have like a digital distribution deal. Hey, you need to come digital. Come with us. We're going to help you. Still like helping a lot of labels 20 years later. And so it took a little bit the focus away from me achieving like kind of the dream of like a main stage show at a festival, you know. While I was like being very successful, like on the label side and also like on the management side with artists. At one point, I like felt, hey, that digital thing is really cool. You know, I just woke up and we sold so many downloads in Australia already. And when I went to bed, we kept selling music in LA and in New York, you know. So I was like, wow, I kind of like this digital thing. And this was like the moment when I was like, you know what? It's time to stop doing design and artwork because I'm only making money if I work, you know. If I'm not working, if I'm sick, first, I let the client down because I cannot provide on time. And second, I'm not making money. Who's gonna pay for my house? Who's gonna pay for my dreams, you know? Mm-hmm. So I was like, let's go digital. I kind of like this idea of pushing like the label, and so I went all in, like with the publishing company, and I started to develop and use my knowledge and my contacts for a lot of other talents, because I just had the network. I went to Miami Music Week as a young kid in 97. I spent like in 2 days money, like $800 for a stupid badge, you know, but it was cool, you know, to see. This was back at the Radisson, more like up at the Deville Hotel at the Radisson, where it was like really the pool party thing, you know, where you had like Tony Humphries, all the big guys back then. Like I think Paul Johnson had the big record back then with Get Down. You know, everyone was at the pool. They were having burgers. There was barbecue feeling, and I met so many people then, and from labels, and these people still today are my friends, you know. I keep meeting them in Miami once a year. I used to meet them for many years at MIDEM in France every January, when this was my favorite conference, to be sincere. And later now, I meet them in Ibiza, I meet them in Miami, I meet them in New York, I meet them at Amsterdam Dance Event. Like we just met each other without planning to meet each other a few weeks back, And so I developed like a really good network of people on the music side, but also had like, because I was doing the design for all these major companies, good connection to like the major setups, where I was able then at one point when I don't know if you remember, like in 2004, the major industry kind of said goodbye to dance music.
Oh, I remember it clearly.
And
it was actually before that. It was right after 9/11 in New York. It started when the buildings.
Exactly. It was because that was the time, 2002. Took them 2 years to exit.
And then LimeWire came out, and all that stuff was where people who were selling physical copies no longer could make money now because everything was all over the internet.
Yeah. So the majors started to step out. I just remember it just happened on the 1st of April. Warner Music bought Strictly Rhythm. 1st of April. Then 9/11 happened. Then the Be Free record came out in October. This was like kind of the record after. There was 2 records. The Enya record that was played all over the news channels owned by Time Warner became all of a sudden an album of a pop artist, became popular a year later because of the media support or because of that tragic moment. And the record that came out of 9/11 for me was Be Free on Strictly Rhythm.
Yep.
You remember this record? Be Free.
Yeah, I remember.
So this was the record that came out of them. But after that, the major said, dance music is not working anymore. We are actually in a depression, or like the world is upside down right now after 9/11. So I took the opportunity and I took over all the content from Warner Music in Switzerland that they had done on their domestic market, like the domestic repertoire. And I started to keep developing these artists that were just left there, like, hey, we have still an agreement, but New York has decided that we need to cut down the domestic markets. We can just do like intercompany releases. So when the next Madonna album comes, we will work it in Switzerland, but we will not work anymore on domestic repertoire, So I was really lucky. So I took over some of these talents in electronic, and I kept releasing them on my own label back then. And so I was very focusing in the record side. But like later on, me going through all the rave steps in my career, and like this UK garage, break beats, there was trance music and all that genre. Always like having the house music very close to my heart. In 2007, I felt like I just like stopped working with some of the big artists. The agreements expired. So I was like, you know what? Let's just bring back EDX. So in 97, and that's where we met again through our friend Aga. I was like, let me combine the housey, make people feel good feeling sound with a little bit the melodic, progressive sound. And that's when I started to release music again, which I felt like that's kind of me, And that's when I actually re-injected the EDX brand with a new try, hopefully with like great songs and vocals that could achieve more than that the first try achieved. And
you did. You actually did achieve it.
I was lucky, Everyone was like giving me, I was always lucky in my life. First of all, I was born in Switzerland. I consider this being very lucky, It's giving you a lot of opportunities, and I've been given a lot of other opportunities during my journey. I had like some people mentoring me, in the early days of the rave. I could keep talking here about the rave time, just like from 92 to 94. I could keep talking to you like for 10 hours and
Sure,
tell you all the details.
there's a lot of detail that went on during that time.
Yeah, it was a lot, from let's moving ahead to EDX version 2.
Let's talk about now. You're going from, producing, and then all of a sudden the big break comes on that big world level that changes the game for you.
Yeah, before you had the opportunity to change the game by being a really good, skilled DJ. This was the DJ version 1, like I know DJs even like Carl Cox. For many years they never released records. They just had like the old school disc jockey thing. They had a radio show. They played great music in the radio, and they became popular because people kept hearing them in the radio, when there was just one way to listen to dance music. This was BBC Radio 1, this was Kiss FM, this was a couple of radios that you were able to reach only with like the satellite receiver antenna from London.
Right.
There was no radio station in Europe that were like pushing dance music, except Italy, for which was always a very unique market, Italy. It was a lot of entertainment too, with the jokes and the bullshit, things that in the US, if you would do this in the US, they would arrest you right away, and they would,
yes.
they would cancel you right away, But they're still doing it in Italy, and it's so much fun. I love it. I force my people in the office to listen to Italian radio just to give them like a positive vibe.
Right.
To kind of, hey, listen to what they're doing. This is what it is about, fun. So I force them. I tell them, you need to listen to this radio show. You need to listen to this radio show. Anyway, so this was DJ File 1, so it didn't really matter if you had like your own music. You were just a DJ playing music from other people, You were not an artist. You were just a DJ. And then that revolution of the artist started, I think, pretty early with that rave movement, where like all of a sudden the Germans became really strong with that like techno trance sound. The Dutch and the Belgium became really strong. They all overtook the Italians. The Italians, they were leaders at one point.
Yes, it's true.
And they all came in, and it became a mix. And at the moment that like MTV started, and MTV started to play music clips and started to build faces to music, like artists to music, the DJ started to become an artist. So it was not just a DJ, he became an artist, because there was a face, there was a fashion, there was a way of speaking, and there was music connected to it.
Right.
And this is that's a DJ version 2 in my point of view, the one that became an artist, has his own music. And I feel I'm a little bit in between there, because I never became or felt like I wanted to be a DJ version 3, which is the DJ that adds the whole social media part to it.
Right.
Like, making fashion, making this, jumping, doing that, taking the microphone, hey, blah, 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 blah. Just like not who I am, But there is like that world of the DJ version 2 and version 3. And I think you are a DJ version 2, like I am a DJ version 2, in my point of view, But the new DJ generation today is DJ version 3, It's not necessarily the music. It's more the marketing and the whole package, Eventually the music is great, or even the new genres they kind of invent or reinvent. Because I think it's always a reinvent now in our genre. There's like never something new, just like 10 years later again in a different way, which I'm actually doing the same thing as EDX. I'm just reinventing EDX with like a fresher sound, with a up-to-date sound, with a sound like to market.
Yep.
But like that was like the moment, like when I felt I was able to achieve in 2008. You know, I started to travel. I didn't start to travel because I was skilled being a DJ. I started to travel because people were able already in 2008 to hear my music online. There was more digital radios, there was more online radios, the podcast started. So the access, if you go back now to my story, that is very important, that you were only able to reach 1,000 people with 1,000 records and you had to spend $4,000, to now you work on a record in the studio, you make a demo, you can upload it to your social media, you get straight feedback, or you can even upload it to SoundCloud, and through SoundCloud you can send it to Spotify, to iTunes within 24 hours from the moment you do it in the studio to the moment it's out there to a worldwide audience. You know, before we were only able to reach that 1,000 people in the countries where the 12-inch was sent. Think about it, like
with the hopes that you could sell all 1,000 pieces.
Yeah. So now, the hopes you can sell 1,000 pieces. Think about it. You were never able to reach India. You were never able to reach South America. You were never able, because that $15 would have been $60 for the people over there, you know, in value. So all the markets were all the countries which were like, let's call it like less fortunated when it comes to economy, they were not able to be reached, except you had someone that was super rich and was okay, I want to be that. And there was, like in every market, there was always that 1-2 DJs that made it big because they were able to spend the money, but not necessarily because they were skilled. But they were able and they had the access to the music. But now with the digital world, it's just like everything, pa, 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 pa. The interaction is quick. You can release same moment, Australia can listen to it. The same moment you have a feedback from Australia. Think about it. You were like mixing down records in your studio back in the 90s. Then you were like, okay, now I need to wait for the weekend to play the club so I can listen if it sounds well. So you had to spend like $100. You had to make a dub plate. You had to go to the club. Oh, so the bass. Oh, then you had to go back to the studio. And this still was something less expensive during the CD time. So you put it on a CD or on a USB stick. Now it's everything quick, pack. You have the feedback right away. You can send it to your manager. You can send it to your PR. You can send it to your friends.
You send it all over the world in seconds.
You have an opinion in 5 minutes from people that you value, maybe, you know. Before it was like you had to first put it on, you put your DAT in there, DAT tape, you record it, and then what you want to do with this DAT? You need to send your DAT or like a tape to the world, you know. There was no chance to share music with the world like
that's right.
You can share today. And again, you know, while now the competition is becoming so much bigger with almost 50,000 dance genre record sent to Spotify, just to name now Spotify, every single day and still get heard. It's not a big difference. The challenge is still the same, you know, because it's more records now out there.
You wonder if they're really listening to everything. That's a lot of stuff to be listening to every day, you know?
The stores, no, they don't listen to this.
There's no way.
No. That's why the whole marketing part is becoming now the bigger part in a DJ journey, you know?
Exactly.
And we are getting older, eh? But when I say older, I say always more experienced.
And smarter.
Don't say this. I keep saying this to a lot of people, and they keep like always want to punch me.
I'm leaving now, everyone. I'm out the door quietly. I'm leaving. That's how smart I am. I'm leaving now, all of you.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so in 2008, it really went well with my own music back then, and I kept always like kind of following this journey. Stayed always as true as possible to myself. well, when EDM became big for a short moment, I tried to also kind of fit in there. But almost 10 years back from now, I already felt, hey, it doesn't feel, it was the music that didn't feel like the way I wanted. It became just like very kind of heartless. It was not soulful anymore.
Yep.
So I quickly switched over again to my journey,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm here now 10 years later, and we are still running, and I could keep telling you more and more stories.
Well,
Keep you telling me stories about the records, about collaborations, about my life in general.
What we want to know is, like, for example, the record that defines EDX to become from, say, the underground to the commercial EDX guy. Like you start thinking about how EDM was so wonderful. Where's the record that changes? Is always one record that's a life changer.
There's two records, because remember, EDX
records now
is there more than 2-3 years. It's now almost 30 years. It's actually 30 years that I'm performing under the three letters EDX. It's now 30 years.
What does EDX stand for?
Yeah, I'm in this music nightlife world for so many years now. If you would have asked me like 30 years ago, I would still remember. But now I'm just getting too old. I don't remember anymore. Just like,
okay. So give us the two records that define EDX.
I would say, like, in the US, like a game changer was my remix for like my career paving remix for Kaskade, Angel on My Shoulder, which I think was like the first dance record played in the radio in various markets in the US, like in Miami, New York. Back then it was all about hip hop. Like in 2008.
Totally.
This is 2008. And Angel on My Shoulder, I think my mix really made a difference. Just like gave that like kind of EDM upcoming generation.
No, Show Me Love. No, that's not Angel on My Shoulder. No.
That's Show Me Love. That's the second record. This was 2000. This was 2015. This was a very emotional record too. So Angel on My Shoulder was the first one in the US, and I think this was the absolute door opener for the US market for me, and for like other markets like Brazil, and like where the record did really well. It was not a big record in Europe, but it was a door opener definitely in the US. And the second record was my remix of Show Me Love.
This one here.
Yeah. It was
how big for them? How big was this for spinning?
I think only on SoundCloud. We and before they decided to take it down, we were like at 150 million streams only on SoundCloud. I think on Spotify, with all the versions, adding Apple Music and YouTube, we must be now at 500 million.
So, and that equates.
It's a really cool story because, just 2-3 days, and I think 2-3 weeks before I was in the studio with my mate Chris working on this record, I was in Denver and played a show, and Stan Stonebridge came by. It was like, hey, Stan, long time no speaking. I was like in perfect shape, 2016, touring the world, and I have still this picture. I don't know. I didn't send you this direct.
How tours the world, everybody. Look at that. That's the way we're talking about. Look.
That's Germany. So
same. Look how big
that's New York. That's Los Angeles. I'm back in Los Angeles on Saturday.
I'm saying, look, when he says touring the world, that's let me just clarify what he means touring the world. Look at that. Nice, right?
Oh, that's Ibiza. Wow.
Yep. So go ahead.
I met Stan, and I was telling him, hey, Stan, I got the part. They want me to remix that record, but I don't know if I can, because your remix of Show Me Love, Stan Stonebridge, was a life changer for me as a DJ, and it's still a life changer today for a lot of DJs when they play it on the dance floor, or at least a dance floor changer. And I was like, I have so much emotion connected and story and history, and I can tell you about this record. Like I started before with, that's when I started to beat match records. It was Show Me Love, uh, Robin S., the Stomrich remix, and he was always my big remix idol. And I was like, hey, Stan, I'm going to work on a remix, but the vocal is so different that I want to try it, the Kimberly Ann that sung the record for São Paolo, she sang it in a complete different detonation and rhythm. So I was like, okay, it's kind of chill. Yeah, let's do it, So I went to the studio, and my engineer, I work since now almost 15 years, was like, okay, Leo, you really want to do this? Everyone has tried to do Show Me Love and it never worked. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it's such an emotional record to me. Let's just try it, So like after 2-3 hours, we went out of the studio and I had like goosebumps and I was like, shit, I think I just love it, he was not like really into it because he's like working on a lot of music every day himself too on his own projects. And he's like, okay, like, you know how it is when you get out of the studio, every time you have a hit in your hand, that's what you think, at least.
I was trying to make one. You try to make one.
Yeah, no, we always get out of the studio and we have the next hit. Let's send it to the label. Or let's send it over to my DJ friends. This is going to kill it. This is on the dance floor. This is going to be a next essential tune on P-Tong's show, like, that like tunes, how many times we had that feeling, Sure. But I had really goosebumps there. And I was like, I think it's a big record. Let's just try it. And this was in 2015. I remember this. My father just had passed like a couple of months before, and I was in this like kind of space which was very weird and special to me. So I went into Miami, still like kind of hurt, and my emotions were different, like how with people. So, and I played the pool. I think I played the Axstone, just a pool party there. I think it was at one of the hotels, at the beach. So I played the record into Winter Music Conference, and mm-hmm. when the chords came in and the vocal came in, I right away felt wow. With the, especially when you're on a summer spot at the pool, hot girls, happy people, everyone's smiling, and you have the sunshine and nice hot weather. Everything sounds just better.
Everything sounds beautiful.
Everything sounds beautiful, but still I had like, wow, this record is so good. And because everyone knew the lyrics from the Robin S. version, but because of the different rhythmic and detonation in the voice, they didn't right away catch it was Show Me Love records. But then, of course, when you have the chorus, they right know when you got to Show Me Love.
Show me love.
Exactly. So this record became like just an instant.
Is that? Is that? I could see people saying it. Oh, wait, who's singing that? Because it's not the Robin S. thing that everybody knows.
Yeah, but they had like something like, okay, I know the record. So this was definitely also a live extender. Let's call it a live extender that gave to me like a lot of energy to keep going, after so many years. Also, especially during that kind of very special emotional side moment in my life, this was like I kept going with a couple of records like in that lane, and they all went like Beatport #1, Spotify 10 million streams, 20 million, 30 million streams. So that was just like the magic moment, like the happy hour of EDX, like between 2015 and 2017.
Wow.
That you don't like really, that I was just like, bop, 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 like everything was just happening the right way. Mm-hmm. It was great times, in 2017, I remember in the summer, in 16, the year after, we did like the Ibiza residency with No Excuses at Privilege. It was really cool. We had like the billboards over the island. We had all the promotional girls, promotional teams. We were playing like, not just Privilege, we were also playing other clubs, was just like
people get his name up on billboards.
Well, that's long. That's like older. That's like my space residency. That's my space residency. Next, you see Carl Cox on the left. That's my space residency, I think in 2012.
Right. But I'm just showing an example that's how they advertised you on the aisle.
Yeah, that's 10 years ago, 10 years ago. I have a lot of billboards. So 2016, we went into Ibiza. There was that energy, the vibe in the US crowd was already 5-6 years into that's Ushuaia. Was 5-6 years already into electronic music, at that stage, the more crossover stage, So everyone was so positive. You had your friends, and I think I ended up playing just that July 26 shows in 2016. And it was not that bad, 26 shows. It just felt mentally bad before starting the shows. But once you started the show...
When you get touring, you just...
It's just good. It's great times, family, friends. You get to end up meeting so many friends, that at times, because I sleep a lot before my shows because I feel I need it for the energy, not for my energy, not my energy level, my energy, my smile, my vibe. I just like to sleep before my shows because then I get in there, I hit the deck, and it's just me happy, doing what I love to do. So 2016, that was a big life extender. That was really good. Show Me Love. I still have to play it sometimes now, and
that's okay.
It's hard, but I'm converting a little bit into the DJ version 3 world, or I understand that that's what rock bands do too, right? That's what people expect, but
we've all had to do classic nights of Lenny Fontana classic sound that I don't want to play, but we have to do that when it's that night. You know that as a DJ, they want to hear the classic EDX sound, not the new EDX version 3. They want to hear version 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, it's very hard because you want to always be like a trendsetter.
You want to be this. You want to be playing the hottest new record, right, and have the whole place going crazy with the hands up, making the next anthem. And sometimes you go to places, you go...
this picture is from 2015 or 16.
My point is, you're playing the newest, hottest record that you made, and the response is incredible, right?
Yeah.
You want that every time, but these people are like, no, I want to hear those old records. Right?
Okay,
Play us this one. Come on, they put the sign up, right? They go
the sound is now back.
I put the sign up in your face. You're like, no.
That's Guatemala. I can't wait to go back next year. I play in April next year.
Valley, right?
Guatemala. No, anyways, the good thing now is that my sound from 2007, 2008 is now back 10 years later, just in a newer, fresher, a little bit slower sound. So now I can play my 2008 records back in my sets today, and they fit perfectly because they were already produced back in the days in a high quality level that can still deal with the 2022 quality level, of the records people put out, So it goes really well. So it's a really great moment for the music right now for me.
Agreed. I have to agree with that.
It's a really fun
same thing from some people discovering old records of mine from 25, 30 years ago, and they think they're brand new. It's crazy. It's so crazy. But hey.
So France is still winning 1-0. It's 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Oh, wait.
So what do you think? Will France win? You want me to tell you the betting quotes for a 1-1? What do you think?
No, we want to know. We want to know the feeling when you got the nomination for the Grammy.
This was fun. Yeah, this was was one of the targets I had, a kind of a dream. When I entered the US market, I after Show Me Love, I was like, okay, let's focus now for a couple of years and try to make it bigger in the US. So we tried really hard with the right decisions, with the right records. We remixed the right records, and And we ended up remixing the right artist, the right song at the right moment, and we did it the right way, and we made it into a nomination, which was like really special achievement. Like you see Christian that is there with me. I work with him on in the studio on projects since 2007, and we know each other. Like we work together since 20 years now, since 2002. So
Long time. That's a long
yeah,
time.
I'm gonna have like a Christmas dinner on Sunday with him in Nashville. He lives now in Nashville.
Are you coming
So
over to the United States? Good.
yeah, for the weekend, just for the weekend. I'm flying on Friday. So it was good, it was good for him. It was good for me. It was just like, it was a great experience. I had my wife with me there. She was pregnant of our son then at the Grammys. And I had like some of my team with me. Like I had some families with me. It was just like the right thing, and it just happened in the right moment too.
Congratulations. It's a wonderful feeling to get something, to even if you didn't win or not, just to be nominated is enough.
No, it was great. And I think there was like even two other Swiss artists that no one really speaks about that were
Jamie
nominated.
Lewis, was it?
I think Jamie Lewis was the same year.
Was there too. He was there at the same time you were there, I think.
Yeah, and then there was like the other guy, like it's called O's, which is doing like hip hop beats. He was like with Travis Scott. He was also nominated in two, three things. It was great. 3 people from Switzerland.
Wonderful. Switzerland's come a long way, in the whole electronic game. I mean, look how far it's taken you guys. You guys are what I call the trendsetters.
It's just super interesting, like you need really to think about it. Where did you grow up, like yourself? In which part of the city?
New York. I hung out in Manhattan, but I lived in Queens.
So you lived in Queens, like in a neighborhood. Like I lived here in a neighborhood, like near the city of Zurich, in Zurich. And like at the end of the day, you need really to think about it. You produce music in your like bedroom, and with your music, you're able to touch people all over the world, and the whole digital revolution, the renaissance of music distribution or how to listen to music has like opened up so many people, souls, hearts to our music. Like I have people from like you have too, and I guess most of the people that are in electronic music, which I consider like kind of a universal language, dance music. We have fans in India, in Pakistan, in Australia, in Japan, Korea, like all over the world, in the smallest villages that we don't even know how to pronounce, how to write. And these people sometimes know the song lyrics better than you know them yourself, because
it's true.
You write them together with a songwriter or with a singer. But these songs or this music, they really mean a lot to people out there. And if you think about it, you produce music in Queens, you send it out to the world. I produce music here in my neighborhood, and you reach so many hearts all over the world. And I think this is the magic thing that helps our journey, that keeps us going. When you hear like, hey, something, when my husband proposed to me, we were listening to this song. Or, hey, when I was stage XYZ cancer, this was a song that really helped me out of it. Of course, it was not the song, it was the treatment. But, the belief in making it was part of the song too, So you have all these stories, this track got me through high school. This track did this, So like, it's a very special and journey for like music people. And sometimes I feel we are very gifted, that we are able to deal with this struggle of like get heard in between all these other songs that are released every single day. Like if you think back, like back in the days, there was just like a few stores playing music. Now you go to Starbucks,
right?
They play music. You go to this store, they play music. You go even to a train station, they play music.
Yeah.
Before, music was not everywhere. Before, music was a luxury thing,
You're right.
And I feel like because music has been kind of a luxury good in a lot of markets, especially in, like, think about Russia, South America, India, where people cannot afford to buy the newest phone. They don't even have a credit card to make an account, stream music. So when they listen to music, for them, it's not just like something normal, it's something special. And if your music makes that special moment, it means like a lot to these people. And a lot of people, they don't really understand. I think a lot of people also that work in music or release music, they don't understand what music can move or reach. And that's like something that every music person, if you understand this, then you understand that you're super gifted, that you are able to share your music with the world.
Well said, EDX. Well said. Well said. Well, everyone, my last final question would be I'm going to leave this with you just to answer it. We understand how sacred music is for you. Where are you going the next 25 years in front of you? Where do you think this is going for you?
Well, I have an amazing family that keep me busy and keep me going. I hopefully will like just keep going when it comes to my music journey. Indeed, I really love my kind of management part, where I help develop careers for talents, and I hope also that we kind of will redevelop a little bit our Helvetic Nerds combo with our like in-house artists and families, and release more music over the days. It's very hard. There's still so many places I've not been yet, which I will be able, and I will be so blessed to visit thanks to my musical journey. And, still a lot of things to do out there. There's a lot of talents on the street that you can help find their way, or like you can help not make the same mistakes that maybe you made and had learned from. It's like I will keep going, and as long as I feel like the connection between me, my music, and the people out there, I don't see a reason to do other things. But that day will not be a bad day, will be a sad day, but will be a day just for new stuff. I'm sure like when you close a book, there will be a new book, a new site from another book opening for that you can put again passion, time, and love in it. But I still feel that that my musical journey is far, 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 far away. The end of the musical journey. I think there will be always music in my life.
Good. Well, EDX, don't stop, Maurizio. Don't stop. And, again, we wish you all the best success.
How do you Americans say thank you in Italian?
Grazie.
The first one that says it right. Usually the Americans say grazie.
No, grazie.
They pronounce the E.
No,
it's grazie. Stop it. It's always so much fun.
No, grazie. Grazie mille.
Hey, Lenny, it's almost 2 hours. I'm getting very sentimental because it's time to go to bed,
He's going to pour a drink and he's going to tell us more. We're going to say this to you. Congratulations on this journey.
Thank you very much.
We know you have more to say in your work. Keep mentoring everyone. Keep doing what you're doing. There's a lot more in store for you. I know you're not ready to give it up yet. It's apparent. You're like you're excited. You're ready to do more and say more.
No, I just know one thing. The end is always the start of something new.
It's a good way of looking at it.
And that's a very important thing. You need to understand it's maybe coming to an end, or maybe it's a rainy day, but always after a few days of rain, there will be the sun. And you need just to wait, be patient. And with this mentality, we always go forward, never go
We
backward.
learned a lot. Come a long way from there, brother.
Look at this. This is my boy Andrea when he just started his
I'm saying you come a long way from those days, and from sitting there thinking about what you're going to be your next move to where you are now: management, mentoring, running record labels, running the EDX brand, and a father, which is a very important job too. Being a father and a parent.
Trust me, being a father, but I know this, is an easy going thing. Being a husband, that's
I didn't say that part.
The harder part.
I said being a father is a very important job. I didn't say that.
I agree.
I didn't say about being the husband.
I didn't listen to the end. That's a mistake, I know.
I said it's an important job. I didn't say being a good husband is a whole different job. Learn from this, everyone. EDX, thank you so much, brother man. Thank you. We love you. You did
Lenny,
great work.
I see you very soon. Thank you very much for having me.
Buon Natale.
And thank you also to everyone that just spent some time with us here. Look at this.
He's got to get back to the game. He's dying right now.
No, it's over. It's 2-0 for France.
We'll leave
5 more minutes. I just looked a little bit sad because I saw
I know you look at it's okay.
No, because there was 2 kids from Morocco. They were crying in the TV because their team is losing. I was like, oh shit. You don't want kids. You don't want kids. You don't want to see kids crying. When you have your own kids, you don't want to see kids crying.
I know.
Okay, Lenny, cool. Thank you one more time.
Thank you. Ciao, Maurizio. Ciao. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, EDX, for rocking it for us and giving us your full story. And once again, everyone, for the shameless plug, I'm so proud to say 100th episode with one of the disco giants, Kathy Sledge, will be here 28th of December to share her story. December 28th. Have a great Christmas, everyone.